Hello, and welcome to Good People, Good Things, a podcast all about putting the spotlight on the special people who do good, fun, and creative things with a desire to make a positive impact on the well-being of individuals and communities at large. This series is brought to you with a mixture of French and, I'm told, South African accent. I am Flo, your host and your yoga teacher by trade. Let me introduce you to Stéphanie Cruchandeau. That's right, we have another Frenchie in the house, so we're going to do this podcast entirely in French. Nah, you're just simply going to have your earful of French accent, which some people can't seem to get enough of, so if that's you, enjoy. Stéphanie Cruchandeau is born in the southwest of France, in a family where the love of food and cooking seems to be congenital. If Stéphanie's mom is a chef by trade, she's not the only cook in the family. Stéphanie's grandmother, grandfather, who was a farmer, Stéphanie's father are all very good cooks too. After an A-level in literature, Stéphanie pursued her studies in Toulouse and obtained a master's degree in law and insurance law, a world she initially fell into because there was no queue at the stand during University Open Day. That's a true story, people. In 2008, Stéphanie moved to London and started working as an intern as a policy analyst for an aviation insurance company. She later became a general aviation underwriter, a profession she ended up leaving in 2019 in order to follow her passion. Chef Naturelle was born. Stéphanie describes herself as a holistic chef. She creates meals for private clients, retreats and events, holds workshops on bread making and fermentation, and you can also find her at multiple festivals. Stéphanie embodies her philosophy by growing fruits, flowers, and vegetables. She knows about the benefits and healing powers of plants and food, cooks according to seasonal produce available, and focuses on providing nutritious and delicious plant-based meals. Stéphanie, welcome, and thank you for being my guest on Good People, Good Things.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, Stéphanie, you have a very academic background, but the love of food has always been with you. It's running in the family, and parallel to your day job, you would go to Michelin star restaurants, you would help friends cook meals for supper clubs, you were the girl who brought delicious cakes at work, you must have been very popular. Is there a specific moment you can recall where you thought, that's it, that's what I want to dedicate myself to exclusively, or was it a slow process?
So it's a very good question. I think I always knew I wanted to cook as a living, but I thought it would come much later in life. But it was when I was still in insurance, and I recalled this conversation with my CEO and about where I wanted to be in 10 years. And I didn't think it was, I didn't go away thinking I want to cook, but where I wanted to be in this company, in insurance. And so I went away for the weekend. And then when I asked myself the question, I was like, oh no, this is not where I want to be. So I went away the weekend thinking about where I wanted to be. And on the Monday, I just handed out my notice.
Wow.
So there was no kind of, clear view of what I wanted to do, but I knew it was going to be cooking. And then once I make a decision about something, that's it.
That's incredible. That's a really hard thing to do, because even if you feel within yourself like, okay, this is my calling now, I need to follow that path, it's still bloody hard because of the logistics that come with having to leave your full-time job, right?
It is. I know.
So brave.
But actually, I do recall something else. I think it was a year before that. I attended a yoga retreat in Shoreditch, and the title of it was Living with Purpose. And it was, you must be familiar with it, but about our Dharma, right? What we are here to do. And it was cooking, and we were told, to be thinking about it and to share it with the partner that we were having at that retreat. And it was cooking. So it was in the way, I think, it's probably in my head unconsciously. I was doing the steps for it, but then
there's been a few triggers.
Yeah.
And then you were ready.
Yeah, exactly.
With so many talented cooks in your family, you basically grew up eating the most amazing food, I would imagine. Were you aware at the time that this was rather unique? I don't know, maybe you would go to a friend's house and you'd be like, what is this that you're giving me to eat? Or did you have an awareness that the food you ate was maybe better than average?
No, I didn't. I know it sounds pretty bad, actually. and sometimes even to this day, it doesn't. It feels normal. It does.
I'm a little bit envious right now.
It does. It felt really normal because everybody kind of cooked, and it was in growing vegetables, and food was a big part. So it didn't feel. Yeah,
it's just what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I say I'm envious, but actually it was very privileged growing up as well. Like, I grew up in a little village, and all our neighbors. I mean, my dad was a farmer, not growing fruits and vegetables, but he was growing cereals, crops. But all our neighbors were doing something similar. They had everyone had a cottage, they had plum trees, we had a walnut tree. We had our own cottage for a while. I don't know how my mum and dad managed that with 6 children and plus everything else. But
that's a lot.
That's a lot of work. But we were picking stuff from the garden, and again, I didn't realize how special that was at the time. So I think it's whatever you grow up with, I guess you consider as normal rather than being spoiled.
Exactly. And I think as well, it's a lot in our culture in France. A lot of people that I know grew up like that because more space, I think a lot more connected to nature and to food in general. So it wasn't uncommon, more so now, but back when we were kids it was not. And
I guess also living in the countryside.
Exactly.
I don't know what it's like. I mean, now I know what it's like to live in a city, but I didn't live in a big city until I was 18. And I think the disconnect can be more profound if you've grown up in the city.
Yeah,
if you don't have.
That's all you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've been lucky growing up.
We have.
Sometimes a bit boring because you feel a bit lonely in that big countryside, but it had its good point. You grew up so near Toulouse, which counts among its specialties. La saucisse de Toulouse, le cassoulet, le foie gras. How do you find being a vegetarian in your family and in the region where you grew up? Did you send your family in a flutter of when you announced you were vegetarian? I suppose you were not always vegetarian. And do the majority of restaurants seem to cater for vegetarians?
So I wasn't always vegetarian or plant-based or not eating meat. I did eat meat, fish, everything for a long time, and then I slowly kind of changed my diet. It wasn't like a one moment either, but my family, gosh, they still don't understand. No, of course not, because it's so much in the culture. Like my aunt, she raises ducks and she force feeds them and makes foie gras, and I grew up with that, or having rabbits, and so it's no. There is not really any understanding. I still have my cousin telling me, "You only eat seeds."
You're a bird.
Exactly, you're a bird. So I think they are curious more and more, especially my dad. I think he loves when I cook, and he finds this is really tasty, and he likes discovering it. I think they don't have the what's the word? It's not bravery, or courage, but the audacity, I guess, to try and cook it themselves, because it takes a lot to deviate from a piece of meat and then vegetables on the side. But he likes it. My mum, being a chef by trade, is very much ingrained, so it's it's more difficult. Yeah, definitely. And eating out now is the town I am from, Osh, which is 25,000 people. You find some vegetarian dishes, but it's very cheesy, or things like pasta or rice. This kind of, it's not very creative. In Toulouse, a lot more. I mean, it's really growing. I think people see the value. There are a lot of young chefs that want to go towards that, and they don't. What I like as well is that it's not necessarily a vegetarian or vegan restaurant. It's amazing chefs that want to open up to more creative ways of cooking, and there is a lot more. There is more and more. Yeah. But I've went to a place once where my dad lives, which is a village, and the only thing I could eat was chips, because there was they couldn't.
It used to be, I mean, like it's becoming more mainstream in places, it's taking a bit more time, but it used to be just like, well, then you just don't have the meat of the fish and you eat the sides.
Exactly.
So and it's often carbs.
Yeah, or just
vegetables. Or salad, a
vegetables.
few leaves. And so that's not super nutritious, so you go hungry.
It's not. And this is why people think as well, oh my gosh, like, you must be hungry all the time. No, because you think differently. You're not just avoiding the meat and eating just the sides.
Yes.
You know, you need to kind of think outside of that.
You have to rethink. Obviously, we were talking about you growing up, and I forgot to ask you that question. Where and maybe still are some of your favorite family dishes? Is there like really traditional Cruchandeau food?
Oh my goodness. So there is always one dish that comes to mind, and which I wouldn't eat anymore because it's got meat in there. But one of my aunt used to make a beautiful chou farci. So which is like a whole cabbage that is stuffed with meat.
Basically.
Like, usually it's minced pork and beef together, and cooked for a long time, and it's like very juicy, very fragrant, and the cabbage, the leaves just fall apart and melt in the mouth, and it's so good. And I mean, this I've got good. Yeah, it's the whole situation. I still picture it, you know, like her picking it from the garden and then making it, and then us all eating it together. So that's one of them. The second one is coming back from school, and now I consider myself lucky, and I still do. Coming back from school and my mum making fresh chaussons aux pommes.
Oh my god.
And chaussons aux pommes is this, so it's not an apple pie, it's like this puff pastry that's filled with stewed apples.
Yeah. I haven't had one for ages.
Me neither, because they don't do it anymore.
No, why?
I don't know.
It's so good.
It's so tasty. It's very simple, but so tasty. And my mum making it from scratch, and it was still warm. And I mean, yeah.
I remember chaussons aux pommes. Gosh, I haven't talked about that
so
for
good.
ages. But
so
there was one thing that we used to get as well. I mean, from the bakery, but still, at least at that time, it was still really tasty coming from bakery. I was saying to friends as well, like, I'm really surprised, because when I grew up, I have really the memories of like I'm from a small town outside Paris, like an hour southwest of Paris. And the standard of the bakeries were really high. So it's like we had amazing bread, amazing pastries. And then like more recently I've noticed, because here in London you also can't find those. We're lucky to have a bakery nearby that they do a few pastries, but it's so spot on, it's always fresh, it's super dependable and amazing. And then going back to my mum and dad's place, I'm just like, it tastes manufactured, it tastes industrial. And they seem to be individual or independent bakeries, but the quality is not there anymore, and I'm like, why is that? I don't know why it's changed so much. I guess ease, mass production, or but it's such a shame. I'd rather have little and not that often and really good quality than just like, because in France it's like under €2 to get a pastry. It's like €1.60 or something, but it tastes bad. I'd rather pay €3 and get something that's been
like very good.
Yeah, really
I know.
good.
It's less and less. There are some good ones still, but I think even sourdough bread, really you have to look for it in France. I think these days it's more using yeast rather than.
Do you find like it's similar when you go home? Like
it is. I mean, in Auch there are a lot of different. So there are maybe 6, I think, boulangerie, pâtisserie, and they are all pretty good actually, and still family owned, you know. And then you've got like the industrial ones, like Epigaulois, for example, not to name any. but you have some family owned, and they are really good. And then it depends on your taste, because they all have slightly different kind of way of making it, but no, you find some good ones.
Okay, that's good to know that they are.
Oh no, they are. Yeah,
enduring. But such a disappointment. Anyway, so I'm just kind of.
And the last dish, can I?
Yes, of course.
Oh my god! So one of my aunts on my dad's side this time, because I've got a big family. So my mom and my dad, they have 9 brothers and sisters each. So and mostly women. So a lot of cooks and a lot of creativity. But one of my aunts, she used to make amazing salads and very gourmand. You know, like it's not just a salad. It had, the dressing was always spot on, and all of the kind of ingredients in there. She was so known for her salads, and that stays with me. Yeah.
So do you have like a special recipe book that's passed on? Like
no, and that's the thing. And I think that's the thing with French cooking. I think there is no recipe. Unless, like, my mum has got, because she actually went to, she had a CAP in cuisine, so she studied it. But most French cooks, and cooks as not chefs, there's no recipe. And that's what I love, and that's the way I teach people now as well. It's, the recipe is kind of a rough guide, but it's by doing that you know what you should be aiming for or what you should see, you know, and then you tasting everything. So no recipe.
Maybe at some point we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
You moved to Hertfordshire in 2019. In the 21st century. So hello everyone. In 2019, thank you. Was it partly driven by your desire to live a life more aligned with your desired lifestyle, so closer to nature and all that goodness?
So it wasn't. It was basically driven by quitting my job in the city and starting my own business. So I was living in Shoreditch before that. And then my fiancé, John, lived in Hertford already. So then it was like the natural move to go from London to Hertford. Yeah. So followed him, basically. But then it was a very good move, because what was amazing is that I could take an allotment. So, which I couldn't have done in London, of course. Yeah. The waiting list is huge. I didn't have to wait at all there. And so I moved there in January 2019, and then in February we had the allotment and started it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, just more like a move dictated by circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. It
all worked out beautifully. You're passionate about food. I think that's very obvious by now. So you're passionate about food in the kitchen, but you also love meeting people, and you love sharing your knowledge about food, which makes you not only a cook but also an educator. Have you noticed an increase in interest towards a lifestyle that is more respectful to individuals' health and to nature? And do you find that people are keen to gain a better understanding of the food-body connection?
Definitely. I think there are two things with food. There is this kind of treat, you know, like we eat food because we love the taste of it and everything. But I think one of the blessings as well of the confinement and COVID and is that people started to realize the impact that food has got with our body and our mind, and wanting to learn more about it. And I think that is really good and very important. And I think that's something I wish it was taught at school, because that's the number one way you can take care of yourself. But definitely people are a lot more interested about knowing what they can do as well, because most of the time we don't know. You know, all of us want to make the right choices, and, you know, I think to do what's best for us and our body and to feel good, but we just don't know how to. And
it's tough, because I find there's an overload of information, and nutrition is such a complex area. One thing might sound okay for one person, but actually for someone else it's not going to work. That's the thing. Our tolerance to food varies from one individual to the other, so just having general rules is not going to work. It
doesn't. And also these fad diets and things, or just diet in general, there's no such thing. We don't need labels for food. We need to find out what works for us. And he may be going through those different kinds of way of eating, but we definitely need to find what's right for us.
And I find when you use the word diet for people, it's very daunting, because with dieting comes the implication of often eating less, giving up on some food, of restriction.
It sounds restrictive, exactly.
Exactly. And it's I don't like the word diet. I think people need to think more broadly. It's a lifestyle, and you're going to try to eat more healthily. But yes, have that. I mean, you cook amazing cakes, right? Eat
you
that
have
cake
to.
and have your cup of coffee and have your lovely glass of wine. It's not like you need to just give up on the good things in life to try and be healthy. You should just have fun with food.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you can, and I think that's the one thing, is connecting with food and then having the knowledge of what is good for us, but then making those conscious decisions. Because it's not, you know, sometimes it is okay to have a pain au chocolat or to have, because, you know, life is worth living, and these are part of good life, and like feeling good about ourselves, and it's linked to everything, supporting your local baker, or, you know, all of these things. But it's about knowing and then making those conscious decisions, and then feel okay with it. Number one, never feel bad about it.
Yeah, no guilt about food.
No.
Yeah, I think it's just it's about how you eat the food as well. I mean, if you have a really nice meal and you have to eat it quickly, that kind of just takes the joy out of it. So there's also the importance, of course, of chewing.
Yes.
Of really, letting like our saliva, like getting a chance to get produced, start to break down the food, and then the chewing process. The stomach has no teeth.
Exactly.
It's something I borrowed from Jasmine Hemsley, and I was like, this is such a nice way to say it. But yeah, taking the time to enjoy, extract almost the sustenance of food. There's one thing you posted on Instagram that was really, really nice, and I think it was Sadhguru, and he was saying that food is more than just, it's not fuel, it's life, it's sustenance.
It is. And that's why when we know about that food is life, and what we are putting, everything we're putting into our mouth and into our body is, how can I say, it's going to send a signal. You know, it's and it's either live food, like, you know, eating something you've cooked or somebody else has cooked, or eating something that has nothing to it, which sometimes is okay, but then, it's more than sustenance, it's more than fuel. It's joy as well, and it's connection.
And it's funny how we forget that food gives us life.
Well, exactly, it's number one.
Like, and it's for me, I guess it's something I would take for granted every now and then. And just having my daughter, I was just amazed how I was breastfeeding. I was like, my body's producing exactly what my child needs in terms of like ratio of like nutrition. And it was amazing when we went to, I remember that summer, she was just 8 months, and we went to Tuscany, and it was very hot, and the milk was more liquid. It was more, because she needed to be more hydrated, and the adaptation according to her need, the symbiosis was just unbelievable. And it was really a nice way to be remembered of like, wow, life, it comes from your food. It sounds so obvious to say, but it's like, take care of the food you eat, because that becomes you and helps you function more or less well. It affects your concentration and your happiness, your confidence. I mean, I had a similar talk with Son in the first episode. If you have happy guts, it goes a very long way.
Exactly. I love that episode, by the way. I think it was really great. And it is, I mean, gut is such an important part. And that's the good thing at the moment, like everybody is talking about it. Yes. Because it is important, and we don't know enough about it. You know, it's funny because every time when I think about food and about cooking and about eating, we know more about how a computer works than our own body. And
it's a complex machinery.
Oh my goodness, I know, but it is. Yeah, when you think about it, like we should know how we work. I think, because how can you take care of something if you don't know how it works, right? So I wish that was, I mean, I think it is taught at school to some extent, but I think we're too young to really take it in, you know? I can barely remember.
But the importance of food, I find in the process of healing as well. Like, I'm thinking of anyone who have undergone any kind of surgery or any kind of treatment, is going to go a long way as well, obviously. So yeah, it's a shame because there's no funding, but food, for instance, in most hospitals, it's going to be quite low quality because they're not given the means to do that. And it's such a shame, because if there was a time when you really need to take care of your body, that is then.
Yeah,
your body needs all the good stuff that can come from the outside as well to support the healing process. But yeah, that's another discussion.
It is another
Let's not get too down. I was a very fussy eater as a child. I would literally look at something and be like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I don't like it or I like it. That must have been such a massive source of frustration to my poor mom. I mean, I'm one of 6, so imagine if everyone was as fussy as I was. I'm so sorry, Mom. Were you curious as a kid or were you cautious?
Oh, definitely curious. I mean, I was always in the kitchen, and actually I think I was annoying my mum because I wanted to try and help her, and I was too young, so I was in the way. But I've got this amazing photo of me. I love it. You know, these very old photos as well, from the 80s.
There's a filter, now you need to put a filter on those. But it was like that at the time.
Exactly, like with my cute little like pink dress, and I was tiny, and I have this massive wooden spoon with chocolate, and I'm just like licking it. And it is exactly how I was as a child. Just and I was pretty big as well. I loved eating. Still do. But yeah, curious and eating a lot, whatever was there. Yeah,
because I was actually, that's the memory, like when you're allowed to lick the last spoon when my mom was baking a cake. Yes. It's just like, I could even use my fingers, which was just like, yay, I'm winning at life.
Exactly.
It's such nice memories.
It is. And you know, I think being a fussy eater, I don't have kids myself yet, but I have taught some kids as well, and I cook a lot with my niece, who is 6.5. And I think kids go through phases. So they will be fussy eaters at one point, and then there'll be less. But one amazing way of getting them to eat more is to get them involved, because when they get to cook and they see the whole, like from the start to the end, they want to eat what I've done, and they are more interested. And it does take time, obviously, because things are going to go slower, aren't they?
Yes.
But it's amazing to see kids, and then they can just like, they want to eat everything as well. So they just taste, and their intuition is there. You know, they want to taste, and they're like, oh yeah, I like that. And yeah, so I think that's a very good way of getting
them
kids to
involved
eat
is definitely, it's not always practical, like you say, but even just outside, I literally have like 2-3 plants. So we have like a cucumber, a little tree, I don't know how you call it. I need to check that out. And then we have like a tiny strawberry bush. So Sasha he saw the cucumber grow, and it grew really so fast toward the end. That was just crazy. We were checking on it every day, every morning, every evening, and it seemed like it was literally growing between morning and evening.
It was.
It's just like, at some point we measured it, and it was like, it was a nice little ritual, and just saying, I mean, for adults as well as a reminder, but also for kids, acknowledging that it takes time for things to grow. So you end up having a little bit more respect, more curiosity. But yeah, my boy, who it's finding it very hard for them to try like raw stuff, especially, but like the little strawberry bush, they had just a few strawberries, and he wanted to eat it because it was straight from that little bush. And if I get even really nice strawberries from the supermarket, it's like, I have one, but it's not too fast. So yeah, like you said, this direct connection with food.
Exactly.
You can just see where it grows, how it grows. It takes time. It's really, really nice. It's very special, I guess, at any age. But
I think so.
Your food tastes delicious. It looks beautiful. I mean, I can tell because we did that that little day retreat, half day together, and I was like, oh my god, take me back. You also have a really great eye when it comes to taking pictures of your creations. Is this something you had to teach yourself, or do you feel your sense of aesthetics is more innate and intuitive?
So I think it's a bit of both, because I've always loved taking photos, always. But then I love things that look nice, especially with food, and you kind of, you know, it starts with your eyes, doesn't it?
It's
That's
part
what
of
I
the whole
say.
Experience. Yeah.
So if you see something that looks good, you want to eat it. So, and that's why it starts with the presentation and then the photo. So I think I'm teaching myself like every day when I make it, and I adjust, and I think it's a little bit, I guess, I don't know. I've always loved doing it, so I don't know whether it's in me or whether it's
a mixture. But you have an interest in really making the food just a whole experience for your guests, which is so nice. Like, it's the colors, it's the arrangement, the composition, the little props, I'm going to use them that you have as well, because you grow your own flowers.
Yes.
So, and knowing that some of the ingredients you get from your allotment as well is such a personal experience.
No, definitely. I mean, the allotment was, I think I had never grown food before.
I wanted to ask you, actually.
No, I had not. I saw my parents doing it and my family, but I hadn't. And so and I'm still learning, but I think for me what was important when I went into cooking as my business, I wanted to offer my clients and the people I cooked for food that I grew, or that I wanted to give them the best, basically, you know, and knowing where it came from, and this full circle.
Excuse me.
This whole circle, it's growing the food and then cooking it, and making sure I was feeding them the right stuff, because you can cook using other produce as well, and it's a very rewarding thing to do. I mean, I love cooking, but the growing is just, that nourishes me a lot.
It's completely part of the process for you.
Oh yeah,
the lifestyle.
Yeah. And also it kind of brings so much inspiration, inspires me, because I see something growing, and then a dish comes into my mind, or, you know, like I'm like, oh, I want to make this with that one, or with, so it's, and choosing the seeds at the beginning of the season to see what I want to grow, and it teaches a lot, yeah.
So you said like you never grew vegetables before.
No.
So do you have any advice for anyone who's kind of trying to grow, I mean, allotment or at home like me, or pots, like for the first time, trials and errors you can think of? Like,
I think number one is grow food that you love, and they will taste also very different. Like a friend of mine just is renting a place, and then he wants to grow vegetables. And he asked for my advice, actually, what you can plant now. And then so I was saying carrots. Oh, carrots are boring. And I was like, oh my goodness. Clearly, as well, I think...
You face it.
I know, because I'm like, what? So for me, carrots and beetroot are both my favorite. And it's my logo as well, a carrot and a beetroot. And you haven't really tasted a carrot until you have grown it yourself. It doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste like a carrot that you bought in a supermarket, or but definitely grow food that you love, and start small. If you have a flat, you can still grow herbs, for example,
yes.
And so they are really, really great, or sprouts, which are not growing in the soil, but I think sprouts, you know, from beans and seeds. But they are living things, and they are so nutritious and very satisfying. And otherwise, I mean, there are so many things, and I'm not like a professional, and I'm not. But I've had amazing discussions with gardeners like Anna Greenland, who's an amazing gardener. But number one is knowing your soil. I think that's I mean, you can grow, but knowing your soil and taking care of the soil is number one. Because without a healthy soil, we can't really grow anything good, or things will work out, because plants do want to grow, vegetables do want to grow, so they will, and they're very, very resilient, much more than like house plants, and you know, I'm not very good with house plants, but I can grow vegetables, so you know, but the soil, important. But then otherwise, just what you want to see, and add flowers. I think growing flowers is a beautiful way to add to a dish, but the colors, but it's also very healing. Like, they've got properties that are really, really good for us, and bees love them. So.
And do you find like most flowers are edible?
No. No.
Let's put this straight.
Yeah, no. But there are things like, I mean, roses are edible if they smell. Then they are edible. So, you know, you can walk around even in London and smell them. But things like borage, so you'll have to probably sow them, but borage, calendula, cornflower, violas, all of those are edible. And they look beautiful as well. Nasturtium is another one.
And you put them like on top of any dish, like in salads?
Yes, in salads they look beautiful. Yeah. And on top of any dish, I mean, I just made a cake and just put on top, you know, it looks nice already. And and it's healing. They've got amazing healing properties.
If you want to find out more about that, I will ask you if you... Actually, I'm asking you now. Do you have any events coming up, like in the form of you educating people about... Because you do bread making, you do fermentation workshop as well, but you also do talks.
I do, and I love talks. So I talk at like festivals and events about anything food related. So it can be sustainable cooking or like heating foods or any kind of food related topic. But in terms of events, I've got fermentation and sourdough. So those at the moment are private classes. So people can book either one person, one-to-one, or a group. So this is available for people to book.
What's your maximum in terms of like groups?
So fermentation could be quite big, but sourdough because obviously it takes a long time and it depends on the oven, and so it would be really one-to-one, or if it's a space that's booked, it could be more, but I wouldn't do more than 4 people, because especially with sourdough you really want to feel it, you know, it's live bacteria, but fermentation can go up to 6, 8. Because I love giving people the attention as well. I think it's quite
important.
I think it is important. And then I do bespoke one-to-ones as well. So if somebody, because as you said, not everybody has got the same needs, and also not everybody's got on the same point of their journey with food. So I like working with individuals. Or families. I had a family who recently had a kid, and then they were like, how can we cook, quickly, because we just had a kid, but also nourishing. And so I do that. But in terms of workshop, I'm going to be launching a course. So that's for a small group, and that will be in Hertford, where I live, but that's only a short train ride from London.
Yes.
And that's going to be about wholesome desserts. And I've been wanting to do that for a long time, because I think like desserts can be such a treat, but they can also be very nourishing. And it's about learning, again, not learning a recipe, but learning how things work. So techniques, what makes a sponge rise, what makes a sponge, stay together and not crumble when you cut it. Tarts as well, and beautiful crème pâtissière, this kind of. So I'm finalizing the details, but that will be on my website when it's ready to book, but it will be after the summer.
Okay.
So,
September?
Probably September, end of September.
You have a personal event coming up as well. I know. You're getting married. Stephanie's getting married in October. Have you managed to find a cook that satisfies your requirements?
No, because I know because we are getting married in the south of France, so where my mum lives, which is very difficult.
De Toulouse.
Exactly. And I've got a lot of pressure from my parents. Are you sure you don't want a little bit of sausage? I am sure. So I think we're going to be cooking.
You're going to be cooking?
Yes. So my partner and I, so John is a very good cook. And of course, my mum is going to be there. And she was a chef. And John's dad, so they used to have a Chinese takeaway. So they're all cooks.
Oh my gosh.
So I think, exactly. So I think we're going to be making, and it's 30 people, but we are going to be, I think we're going to be making, the food.
Wow.
Yeah.
The numbers, the sheer number, 30 for you, it seems like, it's finally 30 people. I'd be like, oh my gosh, where do I start?
I know. It's a lot of organization to make sure that on the day it's not overwhelming. So, but it's good to know because it's very complicated when you cook yourself as well to let somebody else do it.
I heard.
Oh, I know. It's very tricky, and I love other people's food, but it's been complicated to find somebody who could, let somebody else do it. So, I know it's very tricky, and I love other people's food, but it's been complicated to find somebody who could, let somebody else do it. So, it's very cook in a way that we wanted, you know, like plant-based basically in the area where we are. So yeah.
You're going to do it. There are going to be lots of fridges available to store the food in advance.
Exactly. Yeah. It's more logistics than, and it's about, and I think for me as well, it is a lot of work. It is going to be a lot of work, but I think it's the most beautiful thing I can give to my guests, because these are like people I love, and cooking for them is the best thing I think I could give them. So, yeah.
So nice. I don't know what to say. It's such a lovely, I mean, the word gesture doesn't cut it, but yeah, you show love by cooking food.
Exactly,
yes. You currently have a blog, and so my next question is, when can we expect a printed version, perhaps, and a more extended repertoire of your recipes? So basically, is there a cookbook in the pipeline?
Gosh, I want to. I really want. I think that would be amazing. And I hope there will be one day. There is nothing in the pipeline that I'm working on, but I started the blog in January, so that's quite recent. And for me as well, as I was saying, it's very difficult because I don't have recipes as such. When I cook, even if I sometimes follow recipes because I get inspiration from other people's recipes, I never truly follow it. I find it really difficult to follow something, and I also find it difficult to write down what I do. So even doing the blog is I am learning a lot, because I have to write things down, and I usually don't. But I want to do it. I want to do a cookbook. I have this idea in my head that now it's going to be out there, but of doing my family my family recipes, such as the stuffed cabbage that I've got such fond memories of, but doing that plant-based, doing that my way. And I tried, it's very difficult. But I would like that, like kind of family recipes, because it's not just recipes, it's stories. It's not just making a dish, it's why this dish, where does that take me, where is the emotion, you know? Exactly, the tradition, like who was it shared with, I want to. I don't know when it will be, and I don't know how it will, and also having the photos with it, because I love the look as much as I love, the food itself. So all the drawing or painting, I don't know how it's going to be yet. I don't know if it's going to be photos or it's going to be watercolor. I love watercolor painting,
and I think innovative actually. Yeah, maybe a bit of both.
A bit of both. Yeah. So it will. Yeah, I hope so. Let's see what the future holds. But yes, I want to.
A lifetime journey. I mean, it's huge work, and like you say, you need to quantify everything,
and you need to test it as well a lot, because there is nothing more frustrating than opening a cookbook, trying a recipe, and it doesn't turn out the way it looks, right? I mean. But I think as well, sometimes it's not necessarily because a recipe is badly written, but it's because the produce itself is not exactly the same.
The oven is different.
Ovens are different. Yeah. If you've chosen a summer recipe and you're making it in winter, the ingredients are not going to taste the same. So, that's why following our intuition when doing a dish is part of it as well.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed, the inspiration will come, the ability to write things down with the alone process, and we'll get to see on the shelves at some point. But in the meantime, please check Stéphanie out, like for her workshops coming up. I definitely want to do the bread making one. Sounds great. I mean, fermentation as well.
Fermentation is good, and I think it's very accessible to anybody, because it is very quick and easy. It's an amazing way to support your health, but also to add so many amazing flavors into any meal, because we're talking about vegetable fermentation. So I think, it would be number one. Bread making is amazing. It does need, some kind of practice, but also some kind of more schedule. You need to schedule it. Yes. But it's, as French people, having fresh bread every week, every, few days. Gosh, that you've made yourself.
Incredible. Yes.
Delicious.
Okay, I'm going to start this podcast. It's that easy.
Exactly. And we have an event as well. So.
Yes, we do have an event, but we'll advertise it separately because we're going to check a venue out.
Yeah.
This might be the one, this might not be the one, but if not, we'll find something else. But yeah, really keen to keep on doing stuff with you, Stephanie, because it's just personality-wise, it's just easy, it's just really nice, your food is great, and it's hopefully like integrating more of your knowledge as well, like making it, like talking about food more. I think most people who come to yoga workshops or movement-based are interested into food, body, and health in general. So it'd be really nice to do that.
It goes all together.
Yeah,
it really goes all together.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Stephanie. Thanks for being here today.
Me.
I hope your wedding goes really well. We'll post pictures. maybe not. And I'll share details of your website and stuff in a bit. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you, Flo. Thank you.
If you'd like to find out more about Stephanie, you can head to her website, and that's naturelle.com. The right spelling will be in the description of this podcast, of course. She also has an Instagram account, that's chef-naturelle. You must be hungry by now, listening to this podcast. But so I'll leave you to it. So bye for now. Have a good day, and thank you for listening.